Hello there, welcome back to a new video. Today is a very special one and I'm so excited to share this with you. It is a bookbinding video. So in total I've bound like 3 or 4 books and each time I've really enjoyed the process. Like I love doing this so much and I hope you enjoy it. I will talk a little bit through the process and at the end I will share my afterthoughts and everything and what I would do differently. I will link some of the videos that really helped me get into bookbinding. Here are most of the supplies that I'll be using in this video. I did forget to add some. Okay, let's get into the video. So first up, I will start prepping the paper, of course. I used 2 different types of papers. The first thing I did was remove all the papers from the sketchbook that I originally got the papers from. Then I just folded each paper in half and I made sure to smooth all the edges with my scissors. The watercolor paper was actually really hard to fold. The paper is very textured. I had to very carefully fold it and kind of mold it into the fold because otherwise it would tear. And yeah, the paper is just very delicate. So yeah, after that I just put 2 papers to make 1 signature. Usually with a thinner type of paper, you would add 4 or maybe even more papers. But this paper is pretty thick and sturdy, so I didn't want too much. Because the more you do, the bulkier 1 signature will turn out. Yeah, I just prefer it this way for this type of paper. And that's that, all done. So all the signatures are made and I think I got around 14 or I think it was 12, and then at the end while I was binding it I added 2 more signatures because it felt too thin. So yeah, the next step is measuring and marking out the signature spots, like the stitches, and this is just the simplest ways to do it, I guess. So first I measured the middle and then I added 2 centimeters on each side, I think, and then also from the edges 2 centimeters inwards. So yeah, I got 4 lines of stitches. Okay, the next step is poking the stitch holes, and this is so easy, but the way I do it is kind of difficult. While I was doing this, I totally forgot that there's a simpler way to do this. So for that way, you can put cardboard on your table and then just poke directly downwards instead of holding it really awkwardly and making sure you don't poke your finger. So this is just the hard way, so please be careful with your fingers and don't poke yourself, and do it the simple way because this is just too complicated and it took way too long. But anyways, the end result is still very satisfying to look at. The next step is coating the thread with wax, and if you're gonna bookbind, please make sure to use a sturdy and strong thread, because otherwise it might actually break on you while you're binding your block. I usually just use a thicker thread and then divide the individual threads until I have the size that I want. It's kind of annoying and it's time consuming, but I don't mind. I guess it's part of the process. So now onto the real stuff, the bookbinding. them. So for this you'll need a needle, of course. Usually they use like a curved needle, but I don't have any, so just make sure to use a thick needle that you can easily hold. Yeah, that's basically it. So you just go in through the holes and just literally sew the pages together. So here you see a close-up of me stitching it. So you basically go through the previous stitch and out the other way of the previous stitch, and then you go back into the hole that you're stitching into, and that's just how you keep going from there. It's super simple once you get the hang of it, and it's so fun. It's like my favorite part of bookbinding. It's so satisfying to see the stack gets bigger, and yeah, I love doing this. The next step is gluing the block together. For this you can use anything, honestly. People usually use like 2 wooden planks and tighten the block together with that. But I just used these 2 notebooks that I had lying around, and as long as you don't mind glue getting onto them. The glue that I used dries clear anyway, so I didn't really care. What you're gonna do is you basically just tighten them together. My dad has these things, so I use that. And yeah, basically just like glue it together. Make sure to really get into the crevices. I dried it with like a hairdryer. It took like 10 minutes maybe with the hairdryer. People sometimes use multiple coats, but I just did one. When I removed the sketchbook and notebook from the block, I noticed that it was still a little sticky around those edges, so I just went in again with the hairdryer, and it took like 2 minutes. It dried really fast. So yeah, that's the book block. It's basically finished. I love the way book block looks. It's very satisfying to just very satisfying. It's like a very cute thing in my opinion. So next up are the end papers. So I basically just measured the same size as one of the papers. It's basically the same thing, so you just fold it in half and then you glue a very thin strip at the place where it folds so that you can actually stick it on to the last and the first paper of the book block. That's why they're called end papers. And just make sure to press it on very well after you are done sticking it. And then that's that. It's very simple. Like each of these steps are very simple, but when you combine them all together, it gets like intricate, and it's a long process, but it's fun. I love it. This is actually also the first time that I'm making a hardcover book. The previous ones have always been just like, they have had a cover, but it was always very thin. Like it was just a cardboard paper, basically like the brown end papers. And actually in the first ever video that I post on this channel, I drew in my first book-bound book, so that's kind of funny. And now the endbands and the ribbon. So it's very simple. Once again, you just grab a little piece of fabric and put the thread on it, and then just glue that together and make sure it's very tight. I used the back of my brush to really get into the crevices and really make sure it's very tight, and then I just dried it up with a hairdryer again. It took like a minute or something. And then you cut it to size of the back of the book block, and they glue it on. It's so simple, like everything is so simple. Whenever I glue something, I always like to add glue on top of it as well, just so that it hardens really well and to really get it stuck, I guess. It just feels more secure. After that is the ribbon, of course. I just measured like the length of the book and then twice, I guess. You can see me doing it in a video. Yeah, you don't want the ribbon to be too long, because otherwise it could kind of make the back of the book even harder than it is, or just like less flexible. So I just did it around half, I guess. A little less, I think, but yeah. I like that the ribbon is red. Like it gives a really nice contrast to the rest of the book, which is very, I guess, boring, but I like the simple style of the book. Okay, now we gotta line the spine. This is again very, very simple. You can honestly use any type of mesh fabric. The video tutorial that I followed was kind of Asian type of mesh fabric. It was very beautiful, but this was the only thing I had. And yeah, it worked just fine. So you basically want to grab a piece of fabric, a mesh fabric, and it has to be 3 times the width of the spine, so that it has like enough extra fabric to fold it in afterwards when you're casing it in. I did add like another strip of the fabric just to have that extra strength of the spine, of course. Again, very, very simple. I added extra glue on top. Okay, let's make the cover boards. I used one of the sides of the notebook, of the sketchbook that I was using. The same one that I got the papers from. It's a very thick and sturdy type of paper. And yeah, it was really easy to work with. Yeah, so I just measured it. I cut it in half. I used the same technique that the tutorial is using. The channel is called Bitter Melon Bindery, and her videos are so nice. Like, I love watching her videos, and they're so informative as well. Like, she really helped me through this. And the part of the cover board that is the spine, so you want to have it the same thickness as the book block plus one of the covers. Okay, so not both, just one, because mine is a little too thick, even though I did do that. So yeah, just make sure to double check. So after finishing cutting the cover boards, the next step you want to do is cut a little strip of paper, like around 1 centimeter. It really depends on the size of your book and the way you want it to open, but it's just to measure the same amount of hinge gap on both sides of the cover board. So here I'll be testing out if my cover boards actually fit my book block nicely. But this was a really nice thing to do because it really made me like envision the way my book would look, and yeah, it was just satisfying to see. Bitter Melon also said that it doesn't matter if it looks too big right now because of the hinge gaps, they're gonna fold in because of the fabric and the way you will stick in the end papers at the end. It's gonna fold up and like kind of bundle together. So yeah, it really doesn't matter if it's too wide now. Okay, now we're gonna cover the cover boards with fabric. So you want to have like a big enough space to work with, so make sure to leave enough excess fabric on the sides to have a nice fold. Now you have to glue all the parts on the fabric, and this is where the hinge gap papers are really handy. You can use them to measure the space between them so that it's the same distance. And when you're finished with gluing everything, you want to flip it over and really make sure that the glue is really stuck on and in every corner and on all the sides so that nothing will move once it's dry. So there you're just going to glue the edges on and smooth them out with your tool, whatever you're using. I'm using the scissors. But yeah, just make sure it's very smooth and that it's not wobbly. And for the corners, I just did the same thing. I basically just smoothed it down. So that's it. It's very simple, and I let it dry overnight to make sure that it's completely dry. And yeah, the next morning I tried it out and it looks very cool. And I actually did already draw in it. You cannot see it in this video yet, but I will be posting my drawing on my Instagram. So please make sure to check that out. Okay, now for the exciting, scary part, casing in. So I actually did make the same mistake as Bitter Melon did in her video, and as you can see over there, I have her video over there to kind of guide me through it because I've never done this before. Yeah, so the first time I did this was a fail because when I closed it, it didn't like stick properly somewhere and it looked very crooked. So I had to unstick it and reapply the glue and everything. But yeah, I'm glad that the other times it worked out well. I think the mistake that I made was that I stuck the end paper on too far or something. I'm not sure. It looks easy to do, but it's surprisingly difficult. Or maybe that's just me, but it's pretty difficult. Okay, now that the hard part is over, we can move on to the easiest step, and that's the weight press. So for this step, it really doesn't matter what you use. You just need 2 long sticks, like they have to be thin though. So I use some knitting needles and some of my notebooks. And I just added some books and a weight on top. You can use anything, it really doesn't matter. As long as it's heavy enough to press it down and to give it a good weight. Okay, and with that, I guess we're finished. So now for the reveal. It was 8 hours later because I did the weight press in the morning and I just let it sit for the entire day. And yeah, I removed everything and I'm so happy with the result. I think it looks very cool. For my first hardcover notebook, I think it looks very good and I'm very happy with it. Yeah, I really love doing this and I'm definitely doing more. And yeah, oh yeah, for the first time you kind of open it after the press, you want to stretch it essentially. So you first want to open the middle and then open the first half and then the second half and kind of go in halves, you know, so that it's nice and stretched. Okay, now that the video is basically done and I showed you guys the final reveal, I wanted to share some of my afterthoughts and some things that I would maybe do differently in the future. So in the future, I would definitely make a thicker sketchbook. It definitely could have been thicker because there's not so much paper in this notebook actually. It just looks very thick because of the paper thickness. Next time, I'll definitely just use more papers and make more signatures. Okay, another thing that I already talked about kind of is the spine. I would make it a little bit thinner and not so wide because it's kind of too wide, maybe like a few millimeters or something. I don't mind for this one, but in the future I would definitely make sure to extra double check that. Okay, the next thing is when poking the signatures, I would definitely just use the easy way and just put a cardboard underneath so that it's easier to cut and less time consuming, and also so that the papers are just more straight, because you can see that when I turn it to the sides, it's kind of wobbly. The papers aren't really cut straight at all. And I guess another thing that kind of ties into this one, next time I'll actually try to cut the sides of the papers when the book block is finished, so that the sides are just smoother and have a nicer finish. I think that makes for a very clean and almost professional look, I guess. Another thing I would do differently is with the end papers, the part that you have to glue down, I would have like a thinner part of glue, if that makes sense. So when opening the book, it's not so stiff and it's easier to open all the way. And the last thing is when grabbing a thread, I would definitely have like a way longer thread than I had in this video, because when you open the book now, you can definitely see like the parts where I had to grab a new thread because it's like tied over there. I think it just makes for a bulkier look, which I'm not sure that I like at all. I just have a longer thread. If you have any tips, tricks, or comments, or anything honestly, or feedback, or some critique or anything, please leave it in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear you guys' opinion on this, and let me know if there's other types of binds that you want me to try out. So again, everything is in the description below, the list of supplies and the tutorials and just everything that I think is helpful. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, thank you so much, and see you in the next video.